Good evening, friends. It's Chris Angel coming at you for another episode of Marketing for the Rest of Us. And tonight we're talking about community. Community. This is such an awesome insight for me. For years, I've loved the concept of tribes. I read Seth Godin's book, Tribes, years ago when it came out. And just was enamored by the idea that there are groups of us who see the world similarly. Like we have similar values. We are on similar paths towards similar results. And we're trying to create something in the world. And this sense of, this shared sense of purpose creates a connection between us that is hard to describe. Like we can become fast friends if we have stuff in common, right? If we have purpose in common, even more so. And so for a long time, I've appreciated the concept of tribes. I've spoken about tribes, but it's interesting that in my own programs and services as a coach and as an agency, marketing agency, I wasn't connecting my people. It was me delivering the service to them individually. And for the longest time, that's just how I did it. This past summer, I created the Groundswell Method Intensive, right? This 6-week program that walks you through how to launch your own podcast in 6 weeks. And in the process of doing that, I ran it as a cohort. I ran it as a group program. I hadn't run group programs before. And as I was teaching the group, every week the group would interact with one another, sharing their posts into the Facebook group, commenting on each other's posts, supporting each other, and to watch people who you're working with interact with one another around their important work is it's hard to describe. It's a real gift. First of all, if I think about the impact of a group coming together and supporting one another to their important work in the world, it's cool too because I can think of the impact that gets expanded. The impact gets expanded because they're interacting with one another. So it's very cool to start to have your people interacting with one another and actually creating a tribe on purpose. I don't know that I'll ever create a program again where I don't connect my people, right? Because when my people are helping one another with the stuff they're learning, not only is that good for me, like it's sometimes they hear it from one another in a way they didn't hear it from me, right? Like that's beneficial. But it brings so much more joy to the experience of serving a group versus serving an individual. It's great to serve an individual, but when you see the group take it further than you could have imagined, now your important work starts to feel, actually this is really good. I'm glad I'm talking this through with you, but look, it starts to feel bigger than you. And I think for the longest time, I've always had big vision, but I've always felt like my results fell short of the size of my vision. And I think a lot of that was because I was doing things alone. I was working alone, and now I have a team. I was coaching people individually, and now I work with groups. Like there is something about getting the group talking to each other where you actually start to live into the size of the vision you always saw for yourself. You start to become who you always knew you were. But shy of you creating a community, I think it will always feel like you're behind. It will always feel like you're not quite there yet. Because I think if you're wired like me and you're in this tribe, we're trying to build a movement of something. We're trying to create change. And to create change by yourself, one-on-one, it doesn't scratch the itch of the vision you have for yourself and your impact. This is a really good, I already obviously know this. I'm sharing this tonight because I've seen this, but it's cool talking it through with you right now because I'm really getting like how how important this is, and I just missed it for 17 years in business. I just missed it. Even though I love the concept of it, there was something missing in the execution. By the way, as simple as building your programs with a community. So, here's my recommendation. My recommendation for you is that you, on purpose, proactively, with intention, find ways to create community in your programs. If you're going to do evergreen programs where people can join your program anytime they want, so it's not like with my 6-week program, there are specific launch days, but like the next program starts on this date, 25 can go through it at a time, but there's a start date. And so I know that there's community because I designed it that way. It's a cohort. You go through it as a cohort. But if your product's evergreen, and people can kind of drop in and join the product whenever, right, or the program whenever, you want to make sure there is some other thing or way that you're creating community with your people to each other. Not to you, but to each other. So, here's your homework. Start to think about how, if you don't already have that, how could you begin to bring them together? One of the easiest ways to do it is to run your programs as a cohort. Have a start date. My 6-week program, for example, the next one at the time of this recording starts January 6th. And it goes for 6 Mondays, 6 weeks. So I have built into my programs community. If you aren't doing it that way, then you want to think of some other way to build community into it, where you're getting them together to talk to each other about what they're doing, what they're learning, giving each other feedback, etc. So there you have it, gang. Make sure you include community in your programs. Not only is it going to be good for you in the sense that your people get more out of your programs because they're interacting with one another, but also that you will start to feel like you're living into your potential. You won't feel behind anymore because you realize that now you've got the resources in people to create the impact and the groundswell in the world you're trying to create. All right. If you want to learn more about that 6-week program, where at the end of the 6 weeks you launch your podcast in the world, you can go to groundswellmethod.com, and watch the free video. And on the last page of the free video, there is an application button. You click the button, fill out the application, and it comes directly to me. Okay. So thanks for hanging thanks for hanging out with me tonight. I got it out. There you go. Here's to you and your community. See you tomorrow.